Released in 2000 in Japan and elsewhere a year later, it's Kirby Tilt and Tumble, the first and only Kirby game specifically for the Game Boy Color. But before I talk about this game, let me take a minute to talk about the cartridge itself. Just by looking at it, you know it's going to be something special. Beyond the translucent pink plastic, it's shaped differently because of the built-in accelerometer. That's right, this game has motion controls, just in case you thought that was a recent fascination of Nintendo's. As I said in the Kirby's Pinball Land video, Nintendo is always experimenting, and it seems Kirby is very often their guinea pig whenever they have a particularly gimmicky idea. And Kirby Tilt and Tumble is very much a gimmicky idea. People often regard this as one of the worst spin-off games in the series, and I absolutely agree. Tilt and Tumble is not very good. I had to play through this game twice, once on the Game Boy in order to get a genuine experience, and then again on an emulator to capture footage, which still had its share of technical problems that I won't bore you with, so please forgive the flickering and sound issues. But the point is, I actually found myself dreading playing this game. That really shouldn't happen, should it? Not with a Kirby game. Even the story here is practically non-existent. Kirby is napping on a cloud, because he can do that apparently, and he's woken up when Waddle Dee and King Dedede walk by carrying bumpers. He investigates and finds out that all the stars have been stolen from the sky. Now, I'm not complaining that a Kirby game is unrealistic, but this seems like a really lazy impetus for a storyline, like they only added it as a formality. They don't even show Kirby realizing the stars are all gone, it's just told through static text on the screen right at the end. Oh, by the way, the stars are missing now. Also, Poochie died on the way back to his home planet. Now, before I dig myself any deeper, let's get into the game. You move Kirby around the levels by tilting the Game Boy around, and you make him jump by flicking it upward. This also manages to damage most enemies and causes items to shift between several different pickups. There are 8 levels of 4 stages apiece, containing things like ice floors, water, quicksand, and death pits. Lots and lots of death pits. Trust me, you're going to die from pits way more often than you die from damage. If you bounce on a red bumper enough times, or jump several times in a row, you can activate a short-term invincibility, rewarding you with extra lives for every enemy you kill, and allowing you to access special areas. You get a few minigames, which you can play by either finding a blue star in one of the stages, or unlocking them all after beating the final boss. There's Kirby's Burst-A-Balloon, where you tilt to aim the reticle and try to shoot down balloons, Kirby's Hurdle Race, where you rapidly tap A and flick to make Kirby jump, Do the Kirby, a painfully slow version of Simon, Kirby's Roll-A-Rama, a game where you have to roll several small Kirbys into pits of the ground within the time limit, and Kirby's Chicken Race, where you have to shake the Game Boy rapidly to wind up your car, then let it go and hope you go further than the chicken without falling off the cliff. The really odd thing about these games is that in order to score extra lives, you have to keep beating your previous high scores, which means if you get really good at them, it makes it continually more difficult to get bonus lives. The technology used here is ambitious, and it works fairly well, all told, but it's also the biggest hurdle toward making an enjoyable game. And I'm sorry, but I really didn't enjoy playing through this. Even something as simple as moving Kirby across the screen ends up feeling like an absolute chore. You're constantly fighting with the motion controls when all you want to do is explore the level and try to experience the game, but then you realize that is the game. Part of that is just the logistics of trying to play it on a dimly lit screen that you're constantly moving around. I've seen footage of people playing this with the GBA reader by tilting the actual GameCube, and it looks silly, but that may actually be the best way to play this game. At the very least, you'll be able to see it. Tilt and Tumble was almost rebranded as a Pokemon game outside of Japan, which makes a little too much sense. It almost seems like Kirby was added to the game as an afterthought, like Nintendo went, what character do we have that's a ball? No, maybe. There we go. He doesn't really do much except roll around and look cute. He never uses his powers, never inhales any enemies, he's just sort of there. I'm just thinking about all the cool ways this game could have been improved considering everything Kirby has done in the past, kinda like how Block Ball took the concept of Breakout and added a bit more to it by giving Kirby new powers. Here, they don't even have the luxury of that. So is there anything I do like about Tilt and Tumble? Well, for all its flaws, there's a lot of stuff in this game. They use the gimmick in a lot of different ways, since tilting the Game Boy will move some blocks and other objects around on the field in addition to Kirby, which is used to get around a few puzzles and obstacles. There's even a respectable, albeit fairly unnecessary, attempt at adding replay value in the form of hidden red stars that need to be collected in order to unlock harder courses. And yes, I did actually collect all 32 of them for this review. The boss fights against Kracko and King Dedede are all really fun. You fight Kracko with a power balloon on loan from Super Mario World, and you have to defeat him before he closes in on you Space Invader style. And the battle against King Dedede has you shooting Kirby out of a cannon and literally punching him in the face. That's pretty cool. All the other boss battles are with these new enemies called Orbservers. The first one you fight seems unique enough since you have to time your shots out of the jumper to hit it in the eye. But then you realize that every single Orbserver is fought the same way, and they make up the majority of the bosses in the game. They mix it up a little bit by giving them new abilities and arenas, but I would have liked to see a lot more variety given the motion control concept. Maybe one that causes your controls to be reversed, or one that's affected by the tilt sensor as well, forcing you to tilt it so it falls into hazards while trying to keep Kirby safe. See, I'm already putting way more effort into these bosses than the designers did. So it sounds like I'm all over the place here, right? Is Kirby Tilt and Tumble a good game? It's passable. I think the only real reason this game has the legacy it does is the Kirby name. If it were called something else like Star Tilt Adventure or Roller Maze, it would just be left to history as an experiment in putting analog motion controls into a handheld device. But now that every smartphone has a built-in accelerometer and Nintendo has a game where you can literally feel how many balls are in a box, the technology isn't as impressive anymore and we're left with just a mediocre Kirby game. One that's actually a bit of a logistical hassle to even play. Maybe they should re-release this game on the Switch. But with one failed experiment firmly in the past, it's time for Kirby to look back on his history and say goodbye to the Game Boy in favor of something a little more advanced.